They would like look if like your eyebrows are plucked, if you have like nail polish. During Ramadan, we weren't allowed to eat. I remember I dealt with it even before I was 9, because like in Iran, when a girl reaches 9, you are basically a Muslim. So you have to like start covering up, you have to do this, you have to do that, and then you have to fast during Ramadan. But I don't know why all of these rules are applied to like girls at the age of freaking 7. But even when I was 7 years old, like I remember we would have to like, I would go into like washrooms and start like snacking because I was like starving and we couldn't eat at all. Sure, if you want to do it, do it. Like I'm not going to be up your ass about it, but it's like, why are you up my ass about having to do it? I remember I was in junior high and it was Ramadan, and then we went to school, and then we weren't allowed to eat, and then I was like, no, I'm gonna sit down and eat. Like, I'm not fasting. What are you gonna do? Stop me?
Hello and welcome to Andisheh Conversations. Today's guest is Parishad, a 25-year-old Iranian woman whose childhood and teenage years were shaped by political activism, gender restrictions, and everyday resistance in Iran. Growing up in a deeply political family during and after the 2009 Green Movement, she witnessed fear, surveillance, and protests from a very young age. From arguing with school authorities over mandatory hijab rules to encounter with morality police, Parishad experienced firsthand what it means to grow up as a girl under the Islamic Republic. Later, she immigrated to Canada as a teenager, carrying with her both the memories of those experiences and a complex relationship with freedom, identity, and home. In today's conversation, we talk about growing up politically aware in Iran, the quiet forms of rebellion that shape young women, and how immigration changes your understanding of yourself and your country. Parishad, I'm so happy to have you here with me today. Thank you for joining.
Thank you so much for having me.
Let's get us started. Tell me, what was your earliest memory of politics entering your life?
I think I think for me that would have been like the beginning of Green Movement, and like probably before that. Like at a time I would have been like 7 or 8 years old when everything was happening. So I remember it was before the presidential election in 2008, and everyone was kind of just like at my grandma's house with family members, with like a bunch of other like friends in that same like complex building. So it was like multiple generations of like kids, parents, and like grandparents. We were all sitting down and we were all like preparing to go and like cheer for Mir Hossein Mousavi at a time. It was before the election. So we were like having all these like green ribbons, like green balloons, and we were like picking like green attires to go out. And it was like, I feel like at a time there was like no fear. And it was just like, oh, we're just going to go cheer before the election. So I feel like that was the first memory.
And then what happened after that? Tell me more. How old? You said you were.
I was 7 or 8 at a time, so like I was 7 turning 8. Um, what happened after that was obviously the election didn't go as planned, or people were obviously angry afterwards, and there were protests and protests. I feel like I didn't know that my like mom was like, or like my family just in general was just like as involved. I feel like on the day of the election, like I saw that my family was like going to like pick up, like my mom would like go pick up her like aunt and like everyone. So like to go and like vote. So it's kind of just like everyone was trying to encourage other people to go vote, even people who like didn't believe in voting anymore because the system was just so corrupt. And like I feel like it was the moment for adults who like had some hope after like such a long time. And then that hope was crushed. And obviously we started seeing a lot of the protests on TV. I could see my mom is going to work like wearing her like green stuff all the time. So like it was a lot of expression. And she worked at the university, so like, you know, but there was a lot of expression, and I feel like afterwards with the protests breaking and me realizing that my mom was like, or my entire family was so involved, getting calls from cousins, getting calls from all of these people in our family. Um, it was scary, but at the same time, I feel like it was also empowering to like know that my family and my immediate family is so involved in wanting to have a change when they're unhappy with a situation. I feel like at a time, I wasn't able to connect the dots, but, like, when I got older and I kinda just, like, went through the memories of, like, what my family did at a time, and after that, I feel like I felt really empowered even at the time too.
That's so beautiful. So I want to ask a question, but it is very interesting. Do you think your family was different from? I was in Tehran when 2009 Green Movement happened, and I was in Banach Square, and I remember I was working in a company. It was on the 11th floor of Osman Borj, if you remember that one. And I could see scenes for the first time. I was way older than you. I had a job. I was in university. Um, I couldn't believe my eyes because I was seeing people getting hit. That was my first time being that close to a protest. But you were just 7 or 8, so you had to understand many things very early in life. Um, but do you feel that your family was different from other families, but or many families are in Iran or have to be political anyway?
I think, given the interactions that I've had, I feel like a lot of people there was a mutual understanding, you know what I mean? Like, there was a mutual understanding among almost everyone that regime is bad and system is corrupt, and, you have to stay quiet or you're gonna get arrested, or, like, worse, killed or tortured, or they're gonna come after your family. I feel like that mutual understanding definitely was there, and I feel like for me, that obviously clicked after the green movement happened because no one could deny it. Like, we were, like, old enough that you could see all the political symbolism outside, so you couldn't deny that it's happening. And I feel like even though a lot of the times, like, in school, like, we tried avoiding a lot of conversations because, again, like, we were kids, um, but there was this mutual understanding. I don't know if it really clicked for me that not a lot of, um families were as involved or as active at the time. I think, like, when I was, like, older, maybe, like, I was, like, 12 or 13, because that would have been when, like, it would have been, like, around, like, Rouhani's election time
Mhm.
that I was older, and then I would, like, actually wear, like, the purple ribbons, and I would go to school, and then, all of those things, like, I feel like I could actually see, like, some people, like, everyone knew what it meant. But sometimes, like, people avoided conversations, and sometimes people would even, like, laugh at my face and being like, "Haha," like, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like, "This girl's crazy," kind of situation. And I feel like it was just different ways of families protecting each other. It was different ways of families, um, teaching kids about what is the society we live in. And they were, like, obviously all, like, really difficult choices that should have been made by parents, you know? I feel like in a lot of the families, it was prioritized for the kids to live and for them, like, over them being aware. And I feel like that was obviously because Islamic Republic is really scary and everyone was scared of it. So I feel like in my family, political conversations were never hidden, and political conversations weren't directed at me either. But it was just, like, such an ongoing thing that, like, I was sitting at home and all people were talking about was what is happening in the society. And so I feel like I was raised to be aware of all the fears, all the dangers, all the injustices, all the good things and bad things, you know what I mean? So it was kinda just like that's how I was raised in the family, and everyone, like, all the cousins and everyone was kinda just, like, like, in the same boat, like, on the same boat. So I don't think it really clicked for me that it is different in different families at a time, but obviously, like, as I got older, I realized that parents just raise kids differently, um, and all respectable ways, like, different strategies of, like, protecting their families and protecting their kids. But yeah.
And I love to hear that you said that made me feel empowered when I grew up, and I love that because as I'm a parent, and sometimes it gets me thinking, like, this is part of my life too. And when Women Life Freedom happened, I was in Toronto. We were going with my daughter to the rallies in Toronto. And I had to talk to her. Like, she was like, "Where are we going? What are we doing?" And I'm like, I'm not going to hide that from you, but I'm going to share as much as I feel it's you can your brain as a like
Exactly.
would understand. And it gives me such a good feeling when you tell me that now that you're growing up and you understand better, you feel empowered about that. It makes me more confident that what I'm doing, I'm doing the right thing. Like I really believe in gut feelings. I have that gut feeling, but it helps me to tell me tell me the parts, because you told me a story before, like the parts that affected you deeply, like some moments, some stories that affected you deeply, the fact that your family, like, were going on a protest. Do you have any vivid memories of that time as an 8-year-old?
Um, I think the moment that I realized, like, holy shit, like this is weird, was like, um, when like I saw Neda Aga Sultan on the screen. I was like 8 at a time, I don't know, like 7 or 8 at a time, and like it was like BBC or VOA, like we were at my grandma's house, and I remember like she got shot, and then that video kept like repeating and repeating. It was super viral, and like my grandpa was like speed walking around the living room, just like cursing them out, being like "Be Sharafa," like "Be Sharafa," just kept saying like "dishonorable, dishonorable," um, and and then it was also them comparing what actually happened with what the state media was saying. I remember that the state media just kept like replaying the video very slowed down, being like, it's ketchup, it's ketchup. Like, obviously, she wasn't shot. Like, it's ketchup. I don't know if you remember this. And then, like, it was the doctor that was there, like, Arash something. I don't remember his full name exactly. And then he got in trouble after that because he was vocal about, hey, like, this wasn't freaking ketchup. Like, you killed her. Um, and then, like, they were just and then my mom was telling me, "No, like, they killed her, we were there. We were there, like, we saw that it happened." So it was my uncle and it was my mom, and so, like, I was sitting there, and then I was kinda just like, "Oh, like, this is, like, actually happening." Like, you know what I mean? Like, I think it was that moment, that I was like, "This is real, this is happening, like, everyone is involved, everyone's going, everyone's seeing all of these things." And, like, this is worth fighting for, and this is worth, like, dying for. Like, if people are, like, dying and my mom and, like, all of my family members are sitting here telling me that they were there when this happened and they're planning to go the next time, like, it is something that's worth dying for. And I remember, we went like, I think it was after Neda died, like, the Friday after Neda died, Neda was killed, there was the Namoz Jome on that Friday that Rafsanjani was by Rafsanjani, and it was to be a big protest. We went to Tehran because we lived in Karaj. We went to Tehran, and then they dropped me off at a family's house, and everyone just went from there. And then I remember I was like asking my mom if I can go, and then like she like looked at me like I was like a dumbass, like was just like, "What are you saying to me?" And like she was kind of just like trying to lie to me that they're not going to the protest, but I was like, "Who are we kidding?" Like I knew that they were going, like they knew they were, like everyone knew, but it was kind of just like they wouldn't necessarily tell me, especially because like like I saw like Neda. And I remember I was sitting down and like literally sitting in like I was glued to like the TV on like VOA. And I remember like for hours and hours I was sitting down and it was being broadcasted like different like very shitty quality like videos were like being sent to like VOA blah 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 blah, and then like 2 hours later, I don't remember how many hours after this was, but I remember that they said exactly they were like 3 people have been shot so far. And then I kept calling my mom. It's not funny, but it's just, I kept calling my mom. It was like no service because they also just like, you know, you know how you have to take your phone when you go to the protest. So it was always no service, no service. I kept calling, nothing. And then I'm just like staring at the videos, just trying to see like if I can see any faces that I like recognize or anything. And then my mom just showed up, like they just came back home. And then it was kind of just like I told her, I was like, I kept calling you, why didn't you answer? And then she was like, well, I can't answer. I can't have my phone. Like, so it wasn't even like she didn't even try to like hide it. Um, but like thinking about that, I don't know, I feel like I feel like the trauma was, like, so much that my brain just suppresses every time, like, I think about, "Oh, like, how did it impact me?" Like, I don't know, messed me up. But I don't know, like it's almost just like it doesn't, because I don't know, like it's just like it's something that we're still fighting for, or like I'm still in the mood to fight for it. My body and my brain, it feels like it doesn't allow me to let myself feel, because if I start feeling like feeling and like, feeling all of these feelings and think about the trauma, how much it influenced me, I just don't know if I'll be able to keep going, because obviously it's a lot. And like when you think about it, it's like a lot of grief. And it's not just like people who died, it's like it's a lot of grief on like so many different levels that as soon as you let yourself feel it, you're like done. So I feel like it's unconscious, but it's intentional that it's like I'm not thinking about it.
First of all, thank you so much for sharing that. I know how difficult it is for you to review that and remember that. Um, I want to share with you something as a parent. We all mess up our kids one way or another. Um, all of us have problems. There's no way that I do everything perfectly and I don't mess up my kids. I'm just, I feel how your mom, I see your mom as a healthy, life loving person who loves her freedom and who values like a family that value their freedom so much. Um, and yes, it is traumatizing, but it's for something so valuable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I don't think there's a moment that I like judge her for doing what she did. You know what I mean? And like to be honest, like I know that I would have rather like knowing than not knowing. You know what I mean? Like um especially because like I don't know, like I feel like the way that the Islamic Republic survives is by spreading fear and making sure parents are so scared that they're not raising kids who are aware enough to be loud and angry. Because the moment that the entire society is loud and angry is what happened during Women Like Freedom, and that's what happened in 2025, 2026. It's kind of just like that's what they're scared of. And so they tried to make sure that everyone is so scared and like so restricted that no one is just going to say anything to their kids. And so I'm so happy that my mom told me, and like, and um
And she didn't make a big deal out of it, like she came home and like, at least the way that you're telling me, she was calm and she told you, I
yeah,
couldn't
no,
do
she
it.
didn't. Yeah,
It was not like, oh my God, my kid, are you
yeah,
okay? She didn't make a big
yeah,
scene out of it. This is,
yeah,
to be
yeah,
honest, this is our normal life in Iran. But sometimes, as you said, we hide it from the kids. And sometimes, um, at some point, they're going to know. Either they know it
yeah,
from you, that is the right source of data,
or
or they
other
know it
people.
from someone else that you don't know what is that source of data. Um, wow. But I got chills still as an 8-year old. That was a very difficult experience. And in 2026, what happened 4 months ago, a lot of us experienced very similar, like different ages. Obviously, we were like not 8 years old. Actually, my daughter, she is 8 when the internet was cut off. I'm trying not to say things that are unsafe for the people inside, but I knew some of the people that I love dearly and I care dearly about were on the streets. And then,
We
my
all
God,
did. We
yes,
all
we
did.
all
Like,
did. We all had people. And then the internet was cut off. And then 2 days later, videos of bodies. To be honest, if you remember the first videos that came out, influencers were mocking the Islamic Republic and telling, "Oh, these are propaganda. They want to make us get scared because some of the body bags were moving." And then we figured out this is real. They are real people, and they were because some of them were alive. That's why
why?
some of them, and that was very scary. I got a nervous attack because I couldn't move at some point. I fall down and I was calling my husband because the kids were with me because we didn't know who is alive and who is dead. And because I experienced that, I can never understand how an 8-year-old would, navigate that feeling. But I know it's a very, very difficult, as you said, you don't know how time is passing. It was, I don't know, 2 weeks, 10 days. I cannot remember, but it was a time that we didn't know who is alive, who is dead. And we were getting a few videos
Yeah.
of body bags over dead bodies. And I was like,
Yeah.
there's no loved ones alive. And this is what many Iranians abroad experience.
No, like, basically all of us, and I feel like, this time was just s I think it was very different because the level of violence that was used was a lot more than what we've seen in the past, like, 47 years of, like, nothing like this was ever done, um, in Iran in the history of, like, anti-regime protests, um and so and, like, even after, like, a couple weeks, I don't know, like, a week, 10 days, like, 2 weeks, whatever, that we were able to get in contact with our family members back home, there was such severe surveillance that no one could even say anything. Like, they couldn't even say if anyone was arrested, they couldn't even say if anyone was, like, murdered, like, what is going on? Because like, I remember my mom is here, so, she called me and she was like, "Start writing down. I got a call from back home. Let's see if we can decode this." Like, it was kinda just like no one was able to say anything. And, like, it's they're under, like, so much pressure, basically, like, people being held hostage by their government. Like, there was literally, like there's 92 million people, like, with the gun pointing in their foreheads. We can't expect them to do literally anything or say anything more. And we're here and we're like, I don't know. I don't know what you're saying. I don't know what you're experiencing. I don't know if the family is still complete. I don't know what's happening. It was a disaster. Like, that was a disaster. Like, I don't think we'll, like, actually ever be able to, like, grieve what we went through because it's just like it's so unbearable.
And I agree. So we intentionally
Yeah.
stop feeling it and we intentionally suppress feeling it because,
Yeah.
as you said, we are done.
Uh-huh.
If we start,
Uh-huh.
you know, feeling that, we are done and we have to go on with our lives. Uh, and
Yeah.
at some point, we have to accept our life is, they are full of trauma because we are from Iran.
Yeah.
But you know what? I want to go back to when you said your high school, and that is very interesting to me. You told me that you guys had purple uh, bands, anything to show that you're supporting Rouhani because you were hoping that this guy would make a change. When Green Movement happened and we had green wristbands and items around us and we were hopeful, but again, saying like this Musavi guy is going to make any change. I was like, I think you were a teenager when the purple movement happened. For me, I was around, I think 19, 20 maybe. I was young. We were very hopeful. When I hear this story from at the time that Rouhani was a candidate, I gave up. I'm 15 years older than you, right? I gave up and I was like, this is not going to change anything. And when I hear from you that you were hopeful and you were although that passion, I remember the passion that I had, that we can change things, we can make things better, even inch by inch. I remember that passion. And when I hear that you were hopeful, to be honest, it makes me, I want to be transparent. It makes me really hopeless that in each generation, we are hopeful that we can fix this. We can negotiate with these people who have guns in their hand, and we only have our word, our ideas, our pens. When I see 15 years after that I gave up, you were still passionate and hopeful. I don't want this to continue. You know what I'm hearing? What are your hopes today? What are you hopeful? Tell me what you feel today.
Um, I think without hope, like, we might as well die, you know? Um, which is a really hopeless thing to say, but I am hopeful because I see the people inside Iran are still living, you know? Like, I don't know how I would have, like, been if I were in Iran right now. I probably would have been dead, like, not gonna lie. Which is what my mom says to me right now. Like, she's like, when I saw how well, there were like different reasons for her sending me to Canada when she did at the time that she did. But one of the main reasons, according to her, she admitted this to me in 2022 when I started like my activism for women life freedom. She was like, yeah, you would have died. Like, I saw how you where you were heading, and I was like, "You're gonna die, so this is not happening." But I see people still being hopeful. Like, I see people still trying. Like, in this situation, people are like starting businesses. Like, you know what I mean? It's like it's not just about political change. I feel like lots of layers of change has happened to Iran. And something that you're mentioning with like Musavi with Rouhani, I feel like there was the era that people were still, some of them, like during Musavi time, people were really hopeful with like reform. And then after Musavi didn't happen and everything went to shit, like a lot of my family members didn't vote like for Rouhani. And my mom was really trying to convince them. She was like, it's our civil duty. It's our civil duty. You have to do it. If you're not trying to make a difference, then you might as well shut up. Like, you can't complain if you don't go and vote. Um, like, we also know that it's like corrupt and like your votes don't really matter. But I feel like um, there was a time before 2017, 2018 that people were still hopeful that reform might do something. And like, if we make some changes and make some improvements within the regime, people were still willing to work with that system and like some improvements. And I feel like it was after Barjam failed, like negotiations with the states failed. I remember I was like in grade 12, I was in Canada. I was like sitting down in my high school, and I was like American dollar, like at a time, like was 5,000 toman. Well, from 3,500 it went up to 5,000, and then from 5,000 to 10,000 within like less than a week. And so I feel like, and after that happened, after Barjan failed and everything, we had like in 2018, like basically from 2017 to 2019, we had the union strikes, we had the teacher strikes, we had all the labor workers like striking and protesting, and then we like had the um Bloody November. And I feel like when Bloody November happened, people just were like, that's it. Like, we're not working with the system anymore. And I feel like the demands, the expectations, everything changed after that. And I feel like how people lived and continued to be hopeful was also very different, because they just didn't want to work with the system anymore. So the demand wasn't like a little political reform or like a little cultural reform or anything else. Like, it was kind of just like, destroy all of this. And when I see people inside of Iran continue fighting and fighting and fighting, because I actually heard this from a Venezuelan person. I was bartending one night, and one of my regular customers, he's from Venezuela, and this conversation happened just after they like kidnapped Maduro. And then I was just talking to him, and then I was like, yeah, like I like thought to myself that how I would feel if the same thing happens to my country. And so we were kind of just like having a conversation, and then he told me, he was like, Venezuela has been corrupted for decades and decades as well, but people submitted to the government. People didn't rise up. Venezuelans, every time we see Iranians rise up and they're faced with even more force than we were in Venezuela, we look up to you guys, because I don't think there was, I'm getting goosebumps, and but it's like, I don't think there is a nation like this coming from a Venezuelan, like, I don't think there is a nation that rose up as many times as Iranians did, were faced with the violence, the level of violence that Iranians were faced, and they continue to fight. And not necessarily just for freedom, like people continue living. Like, it's like with all the internet situations, like you see people fight and like try to still like promote their business. They still you know what I mean? And it's like, that's not, I don't think that's just survival mode because we've all been in survival mode, you know? You're not hopeful and willing to like progress when you're just surviving. And it's just like, that's so fascinating to me to see. And I feel like as Iranians in the diaspora, like this is the one thing that we owe to Iranians to represent them correctly.
And you know what? I want to take it back when I said when I focus on the hope that we had for the reform, but I am hopeful, but I know it takes time. That's the hard
Oh,
part.
yeah.
That's the hard part. Um,
It
when I
sucks to
compare,
see like it sucks to just be like how many more generations? Like I had this conversation when Women Like Freedom was happening. Like I FaceTimed my grandma and then I was like, do you think we're gonna see them like going? And then my grandma was like, I've been asking myself the same question. And then, my mom has been asking herself the same question. I've been asking myself the same question, which is like something that was really frustrating. Like I had a lot of conversations with people in 2022. Like in 2022, like I was really impacted by what happened. And that obviously we're going to talk about that more in depth. But there was one time that I was like, kind of like yelling at my mom because my mom was like so many people are dying and like I don't know if this revolution is going to happen like right now, like and like she was just like worried about how many people dying. And then I was like, I don't want the next generation to like feel the same way as I did. Like I know to some extent like it's going to be passed down, like this trauma is going to be passed down, but I'm like I don't want them to physically be in the same both as I was in when I was, like, young, when I was a teenager and when I was a young adult, when I was, you know what I mean, when I was trying to, like, go to school, like, like, I'm just like, I don't want them to have to worry about the same things, and I don't want them to, like, if they're not inside Iran, I don't want them to, like, carry the guilt that I do, like, the survival guilt that we all feel, like, it's just it sucks because, yes, it is something that takes time. We're not dealing with just some dictator. We're like dealing with the worst kind of dictator. And so it does take time and we have to be patient. And it's just the hardest part of it.
and it was effective. The fights that like we did before you,
Oh, for sure.
although you were fighting for another reform, but and like 5 years before I started high school, no girl were allowed in the school with white sneakers. I was allowed with white sneakers. I was not allowed to go to school with jeans, for example. I was not allowed to even show a little bit of my hair. And I know you were fighting every day for like bangs.
Yeah,
Bangs was not an option when I was. So it has been inch by inch, but
definitely.
it's like we made them not to be able to force us by just not listening to them, by just fighting. Um, it is inch by inch, but and then okay, now I want to go back. You said Bloody November. You said Bloody November was the point that people lost faith in the reform. What happened in Bloody November? Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Bloody November, November of 2019 when oil and like gasoline prices went up by a lot. People started protesting just gasoline prices. And I feel like something that happens with literally every single protest that we have, like even if there's an earthquake, even if there's a flood, even if there's a fire, even if a building falls apart, like people immediately start protesting against the regime as a whole. Because yes, people in Bloody November, November of 2019, people started what sparked the protests was a rise in, gasoline and, like, gas prices, basically, but it immediately turned into massive protests. I think it was just a three-day protest, and government immediately shut down the internet, and for 10 days, I think it was for 10 days at the time, and when internets were back on, we were told well, basically the data that was published was 1,500 people were killed, which we know the numbers are way higher than that. Like they're finding dead bodies in the dam of Karaj, years after, and it's like people who were not found during Bloody November. So the number that was out was 1,500 people, and it was a massacre. It was a massacre, and there was a huge massacre in Moshe, and they just shut people down. I think, which is exactly what they do. Which is exactly what they do all the time. They just use a huge force on people, so people just get scared and they go back home until something else um, sparks another protest.
Maybe for this.
And yeah, and I feel like another thing that happened during Bloody November that was like the same thing that actually happened during January massacre was the level of force on the first like 2 days wasn't that much. And as soon as Khamenei, after that Namos Jome, like after the Friday
Prayers.
in prayers, was like, you have to like, we can't let these people like rise against us, like this is like against Islam, and then turned it into this like big ideology. And there was open fire, and which is the same thing that happened during January massacre, because protests started December 25th and the massacre wasn't until Khamenei ordered the killing of people again. So yeah, I think it was that moment that people were just, which is one of the sayings that we have, like it's like "Shama ba Aban tamam shodin," which like you are done with Aban, which is the month of November. Um, they just didn't have legitimacy within Iranians anymore at all.
No, no, I agree. Nobody was hopeful for a reform. Like Rouhani was
At
the
all.
last reformist.
Yeah,
Like people, like people were broken
yeah,
into groups, uh, and hearing that your family, they tried their best with this system, because I gave up at Rouhani's time, with this system for making everyone's life better, is like they have tried so hard.
yeah.
And again, after each protest, things got more brutal. Let's go back to high school, Parishad. I was not a fighter in high school, but I was a fighter outside of it. Like I would just put my, shawl as like hijab as back as I could, but outside. Inside high school, my generation, my parents was from a generation that told me, shh, don't say anything at school. Be careful. This is gonna be dangerous. We don't know what they do with the people that they arrest. Nobody knows what they can do. But you were, you know, blunt. You were like open. You were fighting even in school. Tell me about that. What did you do? What was your fights over? And how did you have that courage?
That would have been in junior high for me. Well, I think the only place I got my courage from was just my mom, you know? Um, like she never said anything to me about like she never even said anything negative about hijab or like headscarf at home. You know what I mean? Like it was just like, oh, it's a law. Like, you know what I mean? We just gotta do it. Um, and like it's actually really interesting because when I was in elementary school, my mom, I could see her come home from work every single evening and like rip that headscarf off of her face, like, you know, like with so much rage. And like that was not just the headscarf, it was just like everything that she was going through, which is another thing. Oh my God, we're just having conversations inside conversations. But something that happened in Women Life Freedom, and we were fighting about it so much in the West, was setting that headscarf on fire did not represent hijab. It represented like decades of oppression. Like women ripping off that like headscarf off of their head was how a man told her what to do at work. And she had to say yes. How she was getting paid less than a man. How she had to do this. How she had to do that. You know what I mean? And it's not like, I know we're focusing a lot on like gender based violence, but it was also like any single freaking person in Iran was like dealing with so much. And so like that headscarf was like a lot more than just bodily autonomy. Um and like I saw that, and then the next morning when I was like, I would have been in like grade 2 or like grade 3 or like grade 1, whatever. And like my mom would put my like magna, my like headscarf on my face to go to school. Like she would like put it on with like some like, oh, like my son, like you look so pretty, like but I'm like, you know what I mean? And like I feel like there's like a lot to unpack just within this, that it's just like, you have to give in to that system in order to receive life. And how are you reacting to your child who's 7? You have to, like, make sure that she's feeling relatively okay about uh, looking like that when you're 7 years old. So I feel like obviously that was something that I feel like everyone experienced. And I don't know, when I was in school, it just pissed me off. Like I was like, you don't get to tell me put my bangs in. I'm not putting my bangs in. Like if my mom is okay with me having bangs, you are nobody to tell me I'm not allowed to have my bangs outside. And it's just like we had this thing, everyone had this thing like before going to class in the morning. Like we would have to like line up, all of us, and then there would be a bunch of speeches, a bunch of chants, which like those chants were always like death to America, death to Israel. And then um there were like a bunch of like speeches, like religious speeches that were like I think about it and I'm like that's insane. Like the things that they like used to say to us like was insane. Like I remember clearly that they would tell us, oh, like, if your hair is out, they're gonna like hung you from your strands of hair, and then you're gonna burn in hell, and then you're gonna be, like it's just like, and I'm like you're stupid. Like you're just like you're making a clown of yourself in front of like hundreds of 12-year-olds. Like you're crazy, you
So
know?
at that time, 12 years old, like you would not believe them because like when we were young, we would believe them
Well,
for
I feel
something
like when
like
we were
that.
in elementary, because like they would also say these things to us when we were in elementary, and then the whole Jashna Taklif thing that they did to us, like when we were 9 years old, like the whole shenanigans of you're 9 years old, you're ready to give birth, like that was a whole situation that I just find so disrespectful, and like I'm filled with so much rage every time I think about like them selling this idea to us that, oh, you're 9, like you're an adult. You got to act like an adult. Everything that happens in the society is your fault. Like that was basically it. That was basically it. And it was everything that you do. If a man is doing anything wrong and if anything bad happens to a man ever, even if that man is 40 years old and you're 9, it's your fault because your hijab is not proper anymore. Like, and it has to be proper. Like, it was insane. And then you would get like an ayatollah to come in and like look at like that's pedophilia. Like I'm sorry. Like it was like I'm not even sorry. Like that's messy. Like the things that they did to like little girls in elementary school and the same things that they did to guys. Like I feel like they raised girls to be ashamed, to be silenced, to be submissive, and they raised little boys to be controlling, to be everything that they said. Like, it's kind of just like the more you yell at a girl, like, not even in those exact like words, but they were raised to be the better elements within the society. They were raised to like believe that, oh, I run this world. And like obviously all of these clashes happen within people in the society. And like that's again, like that's how they survive, like make everyone fight within the society with one another. But going back to that, no, I was just like, don't piss me off. I'm not putting it in. I'm not putting my hair in. No matter what you do. I'm not gonna go to class today. Cool. I'm not going to class today. My mom's gonna teach me my math. I'm not putting it in. And it was just like,
So that was the punishment. You would like be out of the class.
well, like they wouldn't let me go to class and then I would like miss the first, like, like the first period basically. And and I would just like be sitting outside of the office and then I would be like, I'm not putting my hair in. Like I'm not doing it.
Would they give in finally when you
Like
don't?
it would give in because like I would have to go to class. Like they wouldn't be able to do because like my mom, like they would ask for a parent to come and then they would like think that my mom would come in and then my mom would just be like, okay, just put your hair in. And then my mom would come in and be like, well, she has bangs. Like, what are you going to do about it? And like, I don't know. And like, it was kind of like, they also had so much respect for like my mom because my mom was like, I don't even know if we have this thing here, like the Olya Morabian. Like they
Oh,
had,
yes, family groups that some families they have meetings and stuff in the school.
yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
yes,
So
so
like my
part
mom
of
was
the
like,
yeah.
yeah, my mom was like
I forgot.
leading that
Oh,
thing.
in Canada we called it SCC, but I don't remember. Like I don't know in US.
Yeah, so it's kinda just like it was like my they respected my mom a lot because like, my mom would provide a lot of, like, workshops for families because my mom, does a lot of, like, work like, my mom's a therapist, so, like, she does a lot of work with, like, children, she does a lot of work with, like, parenting and stuff, so, like, she would have a lot of, like, free stuff for school, and so they just couldn't, and I know, like, that was, like, me being privileged and, like, being like, "I'm not doing it. Kick me out of school. Do whatever you want." But,
So did that stop them from,
that happened almost every day. Like, they would pull me because that's what they did. Like, we would, line up every day, and then they would send each class into the building first. Like, it wasn't everyone can go in now. And then they would actually examine every single person that was going in. Like, they would, like, look if, like, your eyebrows are plucked, if you have, like, nail polish, if you, like, had,
what was
like,
the
waxed
punishment for
your
any of
face.
them? What was the punishment for
Well, if you had nail polish, you would have to, like,
take
you
it
would
off?
be given, like, acetone, and then you would have to take it off, and then you could go to class, which, like, that was also another thing that it's like, if you're late to class, that's another punishment, like, your teacher's gonna be upset with you, so, like, you would have to be, um, like, disciplined before
Mhm.
having to go to class, because if you don't go to class, then you're not gonna get a good
But,
grade.
doing that every day to you is because they know it doesn't work. It's a kind of harassment, basically. They know it doesn't work, but they wanna harass you every day just to tell you that we can harass you, and we will do that, and we will continue.
Exactly. Exactly, like, it's just, like, which is another thing that it's like the system is so corrupt, law enforcement, like, the law is never with the people. And so it's just like people can take advantage of that all the time. And that was just like like that's like one of the basically the main injustice Iranians are fighting for is like, why are civilians never prioritized in any situation at all whatsoever? And it is just like your ideology that everyone needs to accept. Um, but yeah, I remember there was another situation I was in, like, because there was just a lot of bullshit. I'm sorry, like, I don't know what we can say on this podcast, but it was like during Ramadan, we weren't allowed to eat. Um, I remember I dealt with it even before I was 9 because, like, in Iran, when a girl reaches 9, you are basically a Muslim. You have to be a practicing Muslim, so you have to, like, start covering up, you have to do this, you have to do that, and then you have to fast during Ramadan, but I don't know why all of these rules are applied to, like, girls at the age of freaking 7, but even when I was 7 years old, like, I remember we would have to, like, I would go into, like, washrooms and start, like, snacking because I was, like, starving and we couldn't eat at all. And
Oh my god, that's child abuse. Imagine you don't let a 7-year-old eat for 4 hours, 5 hours, like, how many hours are
course,
these?
like, we would go to school from, like, 8:30, like, 8:30 to, like, 3, like, 2, 3 all the time, like, I feel like that was the time, and it
That's
was just, like
unsafe.
it was a disaster, like, the buffet was closed, they wouldn't, not cause like, they would also, like, give you milk all the time, and, like, they wouldn't give out anything at all, and then they would even say it, like, when we would, like, line up, they would say, "Oh, thank you for cooperating with us because, like, our little 9-year-olds are, fasting for the first time this year." So, like, it was it's propaganda, like, all of it is so much propaganda that they, first of all, like, make you feel so guilty for not fasting when you're 9 and above. So, like, a lot of the girls would actually start fasting, and it was very unhealthy for them because why would a 9-year-old do that? Or, like, a lot of people, like, it's just like, sure, if you wanna do it. Like, I'm not gonna be up your ass about it, but it's like, why are you up my ass about having to do it? And, like, why are you encouraging me and selling me this propaganda from the age of 7? Like, that's unhealthy. I have to eat. And I remember I was in junior high and it was Ramadan, and then we went to school, and then we weren't allowed to eat. And then I was like, no, I'm gonna sit down and eat. Like, I'm not fasting. I'm on my period. I'm not fasting. I shouldn't be fasting right now because I'm on my period and I should be actually eating right now because I'm bleeding. What are you gonna do? Stop me? I don't care that you're gonna see this food and you're gonna want food, eat food. You're insane. Like, it's just like
Yeah, it's too much for me. It's passed so much time that I don't remember what was happening. That's why I'm surprised. I don't remember it when I was 7. I remember in high school that I would just blame my period. You know what, Parishad, I want to end it with a question that is, I think it's very. We talked about protests. We talked about school. We talked about many, like a lot of feelings that were going on um, during those experiences, and with all the normal experiences that happens to Iranian. But you have a page facing non-Iranians a lot. It's in English. What do you think? Like, what is the most frustrating thing to you that you think non-Iranians misunderstands about Iranian, and you want to enlighten people about that?
Um, there's a lot. I think I think there are two things that I can't bear to read one more time. One of them is like obviously about Iran as a whole, and it is them just saying, well, like you just have to follow the rules. Like it's just a Muslim cultural country. Like why blah 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 blah. And then they're like, well, when I go to church, I dress more modest too. Like you just have to follow the rules. Like why is that so hard to understand? Like blah 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 blah. And then I'm like, no, no, it's not. Like what I say to people usually is, so in America, that is a Christian country, they tried to mess with abortion laws and they have messed with abortion laws, which is terrible. Um, and people were not able to bear that, not even for an hour after the law was passed. And protests, online posts, a lot of outrage, which you have to have that outrage when someone tries to take your rights away. And you just don't register that, first of all, you're allowed to make that post and still continue going to school, continue going to work, continue living safely outside. No one's going to come after you and arrest you and your entire family, and you're not going to have to live with a shadow of fear for the rest of your life. Like a right to protest and a right to complain is something that Iranians don't have. And also, then I can sit down and say, well, America is a Christian country. They're going to have to follow Christian laws. You can't say anything when something comes out of Bible. Abortion is supposedly banned in the Bible, so they're going to practice it. Like, what does that supposed to mean? Like, it's just so much propaganda and so much ignorance and so much dehumanization of an entire nation. Like, we see that within the entirety of Middle East. Like, we see that with Afghanistan too, like women of Afghanistan. Like, it's almost become normal that women can't go to school anymore because it's just like, well, it's just that part of the world, or like for the longest time, it was like, well, Middle East is just like, there's always going to be wars. Like, it's not normal because it's happening. It doesn't mean that it's normal and it's part of a place's culture. No, it's not. It's government imposed laws to restrict and control people for their own survival. Why do you think people should live under such laws even? Let's say that that's a Muslim country and those are laws. Why should people live under those laws? And why are we so scared of opposing Islamofascism just to just to not be called Islamophobic? Like I'm like, it's actually not Islamophobic to be against Islamofascism. It is Islamophobic if I walk outside and take someone's hijab away and laugh at them and be like, "Oh my god, like you look so much prettier without the hijab." Like that would be Islamophobic. I would never do that. The same way you shouldn't put it like it's infuriating to me. On campus at the University of Alberta, there is a freaking table of a bunch of men promoting Quran and promoting Islam, and they offer they have like little white girls with tank tops and little shorts, and they're like, let's put on hijab and see how pretty you look. I'm like, that's I'm sorry, that's the same way as France banning hijab in schools. It's the exact same way, but you don't see that because you're so scared of opposing Islamofascism. Like, it's like, I don't care how many Muslim people live around me. I don't care about that the same way that I don't care how many Christians live around me. I don't care how many atheists live around me. But if you try to like make someone feel prettier with the headscarf is the same exact violence that if you try to take someone's hijab away and be like, look how much prettier you look without the headscarf, it's the exact same way. So it's just like I can't bear to read one more. And there's another one that it's just like, oh, like Iranian women just want to be white so bad. They just want to get naked all the time. And like you hear that, you see that all the time. You see they're like, "Oh, like, have you ever thought to yourself, like, this is like real arguments that are happening on social media. Have you noticed how like Iranian women like fighting for a free Iran are just always in tank tops and like little shorts?" And I'm like, "You see how hypocritical you sound because you're making this video and you're in a tank top and shorts. And you think we should live differently because again, because of those imposed laws, because of the propaganda that you were sold about that piece of land." And it's just like another thing that really infuriates me about this argument is how dare you minimize everything that Iranian people have to go through to a piece of freaking cloth that I cover wherever in my body with. Like it's not about like during Women Like Freedom, women were like, we're done. We're done. We're not doing this anymore. And it was a huge thing. We're not doing this anymore. But I can promise you that if a lot of things gotten better, if a lot of other things gotten better, if they quite literally didn't kill people on the streets, people wouldn't cared about putting on that headscarf for like 2 more years, 3 more years. Like it's like I'm so happy that they didn't. And I'm like it's like that's what I'm trying to say. Like I'm like not having the headscarf is very important because it's bodily an autonomy. It's taking your rights back. It's basically owning your body and making decisions for yourself. But these women would decide for themselves to keep that piece of freaking cloth on their heads if they knew they wouldn't get killed if they went on the streets. And,
I wanna end it with what you said a while ago about no, like your Venezuelan friend. No nation has been raised this much
yeah.
with all the expect. When people go on the streets in Iran, they know there is a chance that they get killed, but they think it worth it. They
Oh,
go for their
definitely.
they go for their freedom and for their basic human rights. They know they are not naive, but they think it worth it. And
Oh,
no nation, I haven't seen this in any
no.
other nation. So
People
this
go
is
out
the
and like
response.
yeah,
Yeah,
you see their like they have their basically will in their pockets. Like people record videos of themselves basically saying, "Oh, I'm going for a better future. I'm going for my kids. If I didn't come back," like they post all of these things. They find like bloody letters in people's like pockets who get killed and they're like, "Long live Iran, my life for my homeland." And it's just like it's also like this other thing, like, I know we just keep saying we're gonna end it, and I'm sorry, but it's like people don't understand this because they never actually had to fight and, like, know that they might have to give blood for having some rights. They don't get it if, like, a 20-year-old like, it blows my mind when I see videos of protesters before their execution, like, it comes out and they're not afraid. Like, they're like, "Janam fadai
they're
Iran."
smiling. They're smiling.
They're smiling, "Janam fadai Iran." They say that. They say, "My life for my homeland." And they don't understand, like, it's like they think these 15-year-olds are, like, under this, like, impression that, "Oh, like, it's cool to go protest." No. No, it's not. It's not like, sure, it's cool for you to go protest here. It's cool for when there's a teacher
Because
strike
you're
in
safe.
Alberta. Yeah, like when there's a teacher strike in Alberta, kids don't go to class and they think it's cool to not go to class and like protest in front of like legislature building because they're not going to get shot at. Nothing is going to happen to them. They're going to go back to school and nothing else. And you think and it's cool here for a 14-year-old, 15-year-old to protest. It's not cool for a 15-year-old to protest over there. 15-year-olds are laborers. They don't have money. They don't have anything. They don't have anything. And they know they deserve a lot more than what they have. And it's just like it's something that they cannot fathom. So it's like silly, silly, silly little girls going to protest. Like it's like it boils my blood. And I'm like, yeah, because you can't fit it in your imagination. It doesn't mean that it's not true.
Aisha, I I should say I know it takes because I am recording this podcast, and to be honest, I really need time after these to regulate because it reminds me of all my own trauma. We are reviewing other people's trauma, and all of us Iranian, we have been through trauma. So I should I should say really, really, Parishad, thank you for being the voice of Iranians. I know how hard it is. I know that you have to take care of yourself mentally a lot. Each video that you make, it takes a lot out of you, and I cannot appreciate that enough. And I think you're doing a huge thing for humanity, for the whole world. Thank
Thank
you
you.
for that, and
No,
thank
thank
you for sharing your stories here. Your stories. Thank you for sharing it and not letting it die for the people.
thank you for collecting them. Like you're doing a huge thing. I told you.
Thank you. Free Iran.
Free Iran.